Alright, so today's video is going to be on being a smarter guitarist. We're going to talk about building chords. Building chords is important. Again, it's going to make you smarter because it's going to help you understand some music theory. Why is it important to understand music theory, you might ask? Because it's important. So, if you ever wanted to know like how chords are made, instead of just playing them by finger positions, this is definitely going to help you out. What we're going to talk about is forming a major chord. If you ever took piano lessons or know anything about piano or heard the words triad, what we're going to do is identify the notes of a major scale, and then we're going to make what's called a major triad. I'm going to show you how that fits in with a guitar chord and what that looks like. So let's start with the G major scale. Now again, what we're doing is we're going to take a G chord, learn what notes are in it, why they go together, and where they come from. Alright, so the first thing we need to understand is a major scale, 8 notes. It's our happy scale. It sounds like this. And if you heard them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 notes. I won't show you exactly how to get a major scale out of the full 12-note chromatic scale, but what I will show you is what notes we're going to take to form a major triad. Now, a major triad is 3 notes. It sounds really nice together, and it's going to start on a root note. In this case, we're starting on G, so we're building a G major triad. And a triad's a nice chord. Cool. Now, it contains 3 notes, but on guitar it can have up to 6 notes total, or 6 tones, because we got 6 strings, so we can always play full 6 strings versus just 3 notes at a time. So what I'm going to do is show you how a major triad is made. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the first, the third, and the 5th note of a scale and put them together to make a G chord. So all I have to do is go to my 8-note scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Take out the first, there's 1, take out the third, 1, 2, 3, right there, and take out our 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need this one, and this one. Okay, my first note here is a G, my second one is my third is a B, and then my 5th note's a D. Now if I were to go through the G major scale following the interval order, which would be G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, which we'll talk about when we do the full chromatic scale, is I would get those notes. So the reason I'm taking the 1, the 3, and the 5 is because since I'm starting here, I'm going to go by G, B, and D because these are the notes that fall in those slots in this particular scale. Remember, you always want the 1, the 3, and the 5, but you can do this in any key or any scale, and then the 1, the 3, and the 5 would change. But let's go back to our G major. So I have G, B, and D. Cool, so remember those notes, G, B, and D. Cool. So what we're going to do is put those together to get a chord. If you notice, as I get the notes, there's only one here, there's one on this string, and there's another on that same string. Now, even though I have 2 notes that I need, I can't use them both because they're both on the same string, so I can't make a chord with 2 notes on one string, right? The guitar doesn't work like that. So I have to find this 5th note on a different string, which is where the open D comes in. So if you look here, I have my G, my B, and then my D. There's my major triad. Same 3 notes I found before. G, B, D, G, B, D. Here, cool. Now, traditionally, if we go down to G major chord, you probably know the chord already. It looks like this. Whereas I'm holding here, 2, I have an open, and I have another string here, and then finally that top one. Sometimes there's variations like that, but mainly this is our G chord. Now if I go back to what was in there, here's my G, right, it's my first note, there's that B, there's a D. Now if I go to my next open string, it's an open G. Cool, there's another G. If I go here to the 3rd fret, there's another D, and up top here, it's another G. So really I still have the same 3 notes, which is G, B, and D. And then I just have another G here, another B here, and finally a 3rd G right there. So what I get is called another octave or 2 octaves of the G. Hear that? I have 2 octaves of D, I have my open D, and I have a higher octave of D. Hear those? Cool. And then I have my 1B, which is right here. Cool. Sometimes you'll see a G chord like this, where the 3rd fret of the B is not fretted, it's an open B, but it's still a B, in which case we have 2 Bs in that chord. That's what's called a voicing, meaning we're taking the 3 notes of a major triad and putting them in a different order. And you'll see a lot of different voicings with different chords. A more common one that I like to use is where we take this B off completely and we actually block this string. That's technically called a G5 because it only contains Gs and Ds, which is the 1st and the 5th notes. The 5th meaning a 5th chord. If you heard the term power chord or 5th chord, which you play like this, here's the 1 and the 5. So it means we're only playing those 2. It doesn't contain the 3rd. If I were to add that in there, and then a B, I'd have my 3rd in there. One more thing really quick is this bar chord shape. Cool, now if you look really quick, all I'm doing is kind of taking the D which before I was playing open, I'm playing it over here. And when I play this shape, I have G, D, and G, which is why we call it a fifth chord. I'm not using a B in there yet. When I bring this middle finger down to the second fret, that's where the B comes in, and that's how I get a major bar chord shape. There's my 1, my 5th, and my 3rd, and there's a different voicing because now the 3rd is at the end or in the middle, whereas over here, it was in the bottom, G, B right away. One more thing really quick is that down here, I'm still fretting this 3rd fretted D like I was doing over here, which is now my first finger's barring it. And finally, my first finger's barring that high string as well, which my other finger was doing here. So here's a different voicing that puts the B in the middle. And that's how we make major chords. Next, I'm going to do a full chromatic scale, so follow me for the next part of Smarter Guitarist.